All right. Well, hello. Welcome to my wonderful, wonderful readers. And I have a very special guest with me today. Her name is Caroline McBride. So, Caroline, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to talk to you. I've been perusing all your social media to see what's going on with your life right now.
Oh, yeah. It's a little crazy right now. It's there've been a couple. I've had a couple little personal personal tragedies that have slowed me down a little bit. We just had to put our cat down, and so that was like, but it's okay. We're working through it, and it's all been a good thing. So that's been actually my current focus. but but it is okay. We've got other cats. It was my daughter's cat, so
Oh,
but it's all right.
that's
Um,
rough.
it was rough. It was rough, yes. But well, Caroline, if you just go ahead and introduce yourself to my viewers.
Oh, great. My pleasure. My name's Caroline McBride. I am the author of Four Seasons at Angelinos, which is now out everywhere, published by Post Hill Press, and you can find it on Amazon, Barnes& and Noble, Target, Books A Million. And this is the story of a woman who delegates 1 year after something traumatic happens to her on the first page. And she delegates 1 year to find the one, hence it's Four Seasons. And the book is divided by each season and each city that she travels to, because she's going all over the world, jumping into some unhealthy romances here and there because she's so eager to find love. But in the meantime, there's this confusing fella right here who is her friend Wyatt of many years. Her name's Charlotte, and Wyatt's been her friend, and it's more the story that's developing between those two on a more emotional level as she is gallivanting around the world. She has a job that takes her to different cities, and she also likes to travel for pleasure. And he's the one that keeps coming back. I say he's like rising to the top like a souffle. So she's a restaurant publicist, and there's a lot of food themes in the story as well.
Okay. So, Caroline, this is your first book. Is that what I understand? Is that right?
It is. It is. I've had to write throughout my career in various mediums, speeches and collateral to market different brands and businesses. But this is my first creative writing. Of course, my master's thesis was an undertaking, which was much more serious, but I've always had this writing in my Irish blood, as I say. And so it was just inherent within me. And, on a personal note, I had somebody very special in my life who passed away. And he had, before his passing, encouraged me to write. And it was something I embarked upon with him in mind. Although he doesn't appear in the story because, he was still alive. So I wasn't going to write about, our personal relationship. But he was somebody behind the scenes who inspired me. And, I miss him dearly. But as a result, he sort of gave me the courage and the motivation to go for it and to write this book. And I'm so blessed that I found a publisher who thinks that the story is interesting enough to publish, because that's a big hurdle for writers is, so many talented creative people write these incredible books, but then getting them published, first you're supposed to find a literary agent, and then the literary agent's pitching your work. And it's quite a journey. And many books that you see, if you're in the bookstore, even if they were published last month, those were often in the works for years. Even once you get a publisher, it usually takes a year and a half to 2 years until you find it out on bookstore shelves. So, I feel that I've been blessed. I know you're a spiritual person, and as am I. So I just, look from above and think that I've been blessed with this opportunity that's really hard to come by.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I have talked with so many authors over the years, and yeah, it's and then it's always the thing, do you go independent publisher, do you just go ahead and do it all on your own, or do you find a traditional publisher? Do you publish it digitally, print? I mean, there's so many decisions, and the book the book markets now are just flooded with books. It is, oh yeah, it's hard to get the word out there about your book that you published. So yeah, totally get that.
It's true. And you know, self-publishing is, there's no shame in it. I mean, it's actually, it's liberating for people that don't have the time or patience to wait for a publisher. So it's nice that they have the opportunity, and many self-published books become big hits. So I just always encourage people to go for it, whichever path they choose to take.
That's right. So Caroline, your background, so this is your first book. So what has your background been that led to this, I guess I'd say?
So my career after graduate school, I thought I'd be in politics behind the scenes, and I was for a little while as a political fundraiser. But growing up in Southern California, I always had this dream to move to New York City. And that's when my career really took off. I moved to New York, and I became a licensed and bonded fundraiser nonprofit for foster children. And I was involved in this incredible project called Artrageous for about 5 years. And it was so great because we added these, you know, society donors in New York City with renowned artists. And then we paired them up with foster children and created beautiful art that went to auction. I mean, you know, Jeff Koons had a piece that went for, I think, nearly $1 million. I mean, it's just incredible what we were able to create. That it was all, again, I feel like it was a blessing from above, because I got to know these children, and I started a sort of side mentor program under the radar, and I'm still in touch with some of them to this day. And, you know, at the time there were 26,000 foster kids in New York City. I don't know the number now. That's just New York City. So imagine nationwide. And to touch even some of their lives was so special. And it, you know, I'd like to think we helped save a few people. And that was very rewarding. So what I did in the novel, well, okay, so I did incorporate a subplot that involves an adoption story, and it's not what you would predict. No infants are involved, but it's just something that I hope readers will check out and enjoy in the book. But after being a fundraiser for foster children, I sort of segued into a startup company through a friend, and it was culinary based. And that was short-lived for, you know, creative differences. And I moved on to become the director of public relations for an international restaurant group called Serafina. And I was friends with the owner, who's just this, you know, lively Italian, like his personality is larger than life. And he asked me to come and run PR for the company and be a publicist. And at the time I thought, no, you know, I had a master's degree in international relations, but this was just not something that I thought would be for me. But sure enough, you know, there was an economic crisis going on. I needed a job. I just sort of fell into it. And it ended up being one of the best decisions I made, because for 10 years, I was able to travel the world on behalf of the restaurant group with new locations that were opening and help with the branding and the marketing. And then of course in New York, Serafina is very iconic. So we would always have interesting guests, from celebrities to politicians to athletes, everybody, you name it, they all go to Serafina. You know, reality stars film their shows there, and it was a lot of fun, and it's been great. So I'm very blessed that I had that experience. And so with all these things I witnessed, you know, restaurants, there's a lot that goes on. And I don't know if people realize, when you go have a meal out, you don't know there's a whole production line going on back in the kitchen. There might be a little romance brewing between the hostess and the bartender. Maybe there's the guy that always wants to sit at a specific table because he has a crush on the waitress, but he's too shy to tell her. And actually a lot of romances do bloom between staff and between customers and staff. So at Serafina, there's been a lot of marriages, and I've worked with other restaurant groups as well. And I know it's quite common. You have a lot of young people who are, you know, working late nights and sort of have this camaraderie between them. And it's also a social gathering place. So within that, there's so many stories that I witnessed, but then, you know, I would add my creative flair and sort of twist it up a bit, and throw in different ingredients, I like to say. And I created this sweet love story that resonates in 4 seasons at Angelino's.
Wow. Well, that is quite a background. My goodness. I am I know I had read some of your bio, but like now to hear you say it, that is just amazing. When you were talking about foster kids, I was just, oh my goodness, that is something that I didn't realize the crisis was as bad as it was until there. I do a lot of work with Hallmark. I don't work for Hallmark, but I do a lot of work with a lot of people that are making the movies and stuff. And there happens to be one actress that does a lot of work over there, Jen Lilly, who's a major advocate for foster kids, and she's adopted a couple kids, and she made me aware a couple of years ago of all just this crisis that is really in our country, all these foster kids and what happens to them. And so hearing you talk about your work with that, and then that you put a little bit of that, a little part of that is kind of a sub story. That's really exciting. That is, it's good to hear that you're doing that you've worked with that before, and then you put that into the book. I think that's really exciting. So.
Thank you so much. You know, it's romantic comedy, so I want it to be fun. And, you know, I incorporate different cities and, you know, different attractions in certain cities that you might not expect. Like there's a chapter on Paris, but I don't mention the Eiffel Tower, but I mention certain neighborhoods that people hopefully are fond of. And, you know, with the foster children, it was actually, I thought about it and I thought, you know, this would be great to somehow incorporate an adoption story, and somehow, you know, because of course the protagonist, Charlotte, she's really desperate to get married and have kids, but people should consider that there are other options, but also options that can really save a life. And I was happy that it came a few drafts later. I was really happy to be able to incorporate that because, you know, again, with the foster kids, the numbers are high, and these are the cases that are so bad that the government's involved. So how many kids are neglected or abused that the government's not involved? And then of course with foster care, sometimes you have a bad situation and they're moved into another bad situation because of the system. So, you know, I just really, I include these kids. I remember them, and I'm, like I said, I'm still in contact with them. I really keep them in my prayers. And when you were talking about your daughter, when we first started speaking today, the thought in my head is she's lucky to have a mother like you, because so many kids don't. So I'm so, you know, I want to like replicate you and have you mother all these kids. I mean, the world would be a better place. I mean, so much comes down to parenting. So.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's very kind of you to say. I've been a teacher. I've been doing substitute teaching. So I mean, I have a love for kids as it is, and I'm grateful. But I mean, my daughter is 17 now, and I'm just grateful to see the way that she's grown up. And I know how it is when I go into the school districts and I see these kids, and I start hearing some of the stories, because there are a lot of foster kids, of course, in the schools where I'll be working, and when I start hearing they've been in 10 different households, and they're in high school and they've been in 10 different households. It's like, how does that even happen? And you just, or I've had the situation where I've gone and told a girl, well, I think you look really pretty today. And she's never had anybody tell her that before. Never. And I'm thinking, what? You know, nobody has, I can't even fathom that. And it breaks my heart to hear those stories. And so it's good that you're highlighting that you've worked with them, you're keeping in contact with them, and then you've had the opportunity, even just a small way, to highlight them, you know, in your book. I mean, I know that's not the main premise of your book, but I like the fact that you've added something like that in. So
yes. So we have a little adoption story that is snuck in there.
right, exactly. Um,
It plays an important role, you know, even if it's brief, but it's that aha moment that you want your main character to have
oh yeah,
in stories. You want to watch, you know, if the story takes place in a year, and it's good to watch your character grow. So
yeah,
in this case, Charlotte McPherson is her name. She's 35, and it's a time where she's growing mentally. Her career on track, pretty good, underpaid, overworked, but so are a lot of people. But she realizes her love life and the decisions she's making with men are wrong.
yeah,
And sometimes you need to look past, you know, the what, you know, what do you call them, the Latin lover, you know, you need to look past the shiny, sparkly, flashy guys
right.
and sort of like look in your friend circle and look at, you know, other men who maybe are there for you in ways that you don't realize. And I want her to come to that conclusion in the
Yeah,
book. So
right.
yeah.
Well, your main premise does sounds like a story that a lot of people that read my blog and read my interviews and watch my interviews, uh, a lot of them are Hallmark fans. And so when I read even just the summary of the book, I was like, well, this is like so many of my readers, watchers would like to would probably be very interested in this book. Um, so one thing I always want to ask about though is this uh, with this being a romance, is it going to be something that Hallmark readers would that they might be interested in reading it?
Oh, 100%. Yes, absolutely. You know, I had them in mind because it's, I feel that Hallmark readers and viewers, they like heartwarming, good stories. And that's why I wrote romantic comedy. By definition, it's a happy ending and you're laughing throughout. Yes, I incorporate some serious themes. I have sort of like an anti-drug message. And, you know, while Charlotte's a drinker, like she doesn't make the best decisions when she drinks too much. So, you know, there's a few little morality themes woven in, but at the same time, you know, it's contemporary fiction. So there's mass appeal, but I think that Hallmark fans like those feel-good, happy ending, love stories, and that's exactly what Four Seasons at Angelino's is.
That's good. That's what I was thinking. Then of course you add in the food thing, which that's also something that we see in Hallmark movies all the time. There's so many of them revolving around food and restaurants, and so it just sounded like just the perfect book for a Hallmark fan, and so I was glad that I was glad to have heard about it, and it makes me glad to introduce it to my readers, and so um, so now is
Thank you. I
this
appreciate it.
my pleasure. So now is this book something that I know it's just come out, recently, but is this going to be something that you're hoping for sequels to this or anything like that?
Oh, absolutely. So first, I would like to see it adapted to the screen. So would that be a series? There's definitely plenty of material for that because you have revolving stories since it's focused around a restaurant group. Um, or would it be like just, you know, a movie, a one-off? That could work too. As far as the sequel, I have been working on it. I just finished chapter 21 last night. It's called Dubai because every chapter is named after a different city. So I only write about places that I've been to. And I think especially during coronavirus, it's exciting because you really feel like you've been around the world after you read this book. And so the current one includes London, Paris, Mumbai, Moscow, Tokyo, Los Angeles, New York, Miami, you know, just to name some of the cities. I include White Plains, Greenwich, Connecticut, Newport Beach, California. So I like to mix it up, Aspen. So I do some, you know, large, huge mega cities and then some smaller resort type places. And so I'm writing the sequel now, and it's been fun because, you know, the story continues. You think when you read the ending of Four Seasons at Angelino's, like, oh, that's so nice, but as we know, you get your happy ending, but then you wake up the next morning and life keeps going. So the sequel follows what happens after this book, and I'm really excited about it.
Oh, good. Well, and I love what you said about how you only write about places where you've been. I know that there's a lot of discussion amongst writers in this day and age. Do you really have to have visited the place? There's so much information online. You can get a feel for it. You can do virtual tours of places. And so people think, we don't really have to write about places where we've been anymore. I know there's two schools of thought on that, but I love the fact personally that you are writing about places that you've only been to, because I think that gives us a more authentic feel for that place when you've actually been there.
Yes, I hope so. And I understand that not everybody can travel all over, and sometimes you have to include a city or a place, or you really want to, that you haven't been to. For me personally, I just need to get a feeling, a vibe, you know, to be able to write about it, especially because the book doesn't read like a travel guide where, you get off the plane and go to the, some of it does. Well, for example, I included Charlotte's in Paris, and she meets this dashing Frenchman, and he invites her to join him in London, and kind of says sort of like, get your own ticket and we'll just meet there. And she discovers the train between Paris and London, and I took it for the first time a few years ago. It's amazing. And that part I wrote, like, she couldn't believe she's between two different countries in, I think it's like 2 hours. And it could take that long in Southern California to get to, like in LA, to get from one end of the city to the other, 2 hours. But to just be able to get on a train in London and get off in Paris a few hours later, that blew my mind. So I had to incorporate that in the book. And so I include some real life experiences like that. And had I not taken that train, maybe I wouldn't have been as impressed. I wouldn't have even thought of it. I would have written her like, so she got her plane ticket and flew into London, short flight. But no, it wasn't the logical way to travel between Paris and London in that case when it was last minute. So I like my real life experiences and incorporating it in that sense. I always say though, the romances are fictionalized. Yeah. So I don't want people to think that this was me with all these different men. But no, those are fictionalized. And I do try to keep it, when you talked about Hallmark, I had to add some spicy scenes, my publisher said that's, the market, that's the way things are. But I like that, that her true love, it's a different level. It's not physical. But as far as traveling, I do like to take my own experiences and incorporate it in the story. And now with travel restrictions, I do have one issue, because in the sequel, I'm writing about a place that was on my list that I was planning to go to right before coronavirus. It's called Sirmione, and not a lot of people know about it. I only have a few friends who've ever been there. It's in Italy. It's on the lakes. And I'm thinking, well, I have to go there. So we'll see if I can make that work out with these travel restrictions. But everywhere else, it's places that I've been for sure.
Oh, yeah. This has been a challenging time, I know, for everybody all over the world with the lockdown, coronavirus, and all that. I know it has changed a lot of things for people. It's been challenging. I know finances are challenging, family, all sorts of things. So what have you been doing, during the past several months with with having to stay at home and not really go out and do all these things? What have you done to keep yourself busy?
Well, it has been tough, but that's why I say 4 seasons at Angelino's, it's great escapism right now. A few people told me that since they're stuck at home, now they feel like they've been on a trip reading about these different places. I had so many trips planned. Like in March, I go to New York. I'm based here in LA now, but I go to New York usually about a week out of the month. So all those, and I book ahead of time. So I canceled March. I was there in February, then it's like March, then April, May, June. I keep thinking like things will get better, but everything, it keeps getting canceled. And I was going to go to Nashville for the first time. I've never been there, and I'm dying to go. And my niece had this big choir performance that we were going to go support her at. canceled. That was going to be the end of March. So the list goes on and on and on. Europe, I try to go to Europe at least twice a year. Sometimes it's more. Canceled. I did do with my family in Orange County. We had a little like family reunion, but there's less than 10 of us. So that was nice. And I did about 3 weeks ago, I took a trip to Colorado. So I flew on the plane. And of course they canceled the direct flight. So, you know, the connecting flight, and it was really rough to fly. And I was concerned that they didn't, at LAX, they didn't check my temperature, nothing, just, you know, looked at my ID. I was like, aren't we supposed to be careful? Everybody was wearing a mask, but you know, they board from the back to the front. Like it takes twice as long, everything. It's not fun to travel right now. It's rough. But to keep my sanity, since I'm not traveling, I have been writing the sequel because writing is my release. It's my creative juice. And then I've been binging more than usual on Netflix.
Yeah.
So that's something new. Do you watch Netflix at all? Are there any series that you like?
I do watch Netflix, but currently I've actually been watching, I've been watching some stuff on, mostly probably on Hulu and Amazon Prime, just because I've been watching like The Man in the High Castle. I've been watching that on Amazon Prime. On Hulu, we binged all of Elementary. I think actually we're binging it again. and then back to Amazon Prime, The Mentalist. We actually, I think we binged that twice now. So
well, if I could recommend something I recently discovered that everybody's talking about, it's called Indian matchmaking. And at first I thought, I don't know, I wasn't that, I don't know why I should be, because, you know, I'm writing about relationships and dating, but then I started watching it. And, you know, it takes place in America and Mumbai, which there's a chapter about Mumbai and 4 seasons at Angelino's. Mumbai, also known as Bombay. So depending upon if you're going to follow the government mandate to call it Mumbai. But what's fascinating about it is that it is relationship based. And they say in India, there's marriages and there's love marriages. And they have so many people from arranged marriages that are happy. They've had kids. But what I like about it is it's clean. There's no like sex, no violence. Like you see the couples being set up and they're really trying to connect on a mental level and decide, is this person compatible with me or not? And they just did a great job. I'm halfway through the series and I just started it 2 days ago. I think there's 8 episodes, but it's something that's clean and deep and cultural. You know, you kind of learn about a different culture, and it's pretty interesting. You're rooting for everybody to find love. That's what I like about it.
Wow. Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, because we are always looking for new series that are clean. Because the way things are set up with my family, we live out in the country, and my daughter and I actually live with my parents. We have 5 acres out here, and so we're always looking for something that will appeal to, I mean, my daughter's old enough, she has all of her shows and things that she's watching, but I do try to watch things with my parents, and my parents are always looking for clean. They're very much, they love Hallmark, absolutely love Hallmark, but then trying to find other things that will also interest them. And so that's good. Thank you for that recommendation. I will definitely put that down as something for us to look into. That sounds like a fun one. That sounds like a fun one. So
yes. And by the way, that's what I love about Hallmark too, that now that you mention it, it's all, the entire family could watch it. It's funny, my stepdad of all people, he's the biggest fan, will come over, and I'm just like, it's surprising to me how many men actually enjoy things like Hallmark or even romantic comedy. Yeah. You know, with my book, I thought, my male friends or contacts, they're not going to be that interested, but so many of them bought it and they love it. And I'm like, that's cool. I thought I was writing for women, but I think men like a heartwarming story too.
Yeah, you know, I think because it's an escape. It really does become, because of our culture is so it very much now, even more so, inundated with just all this negativity, and I avoid the news more than I ever did before. I used to always have the news on, try to keep up with things, and now it's like I don't even want to turn it on. It's because I just don't know what am I going to hear today? And it just will pull you down. But then when you have something that's a heartwarming story like that, and you could just get lost in it, and everything, there might be little difficulties they have to work through, but then it's got a happy ending, and you just
Yeah.
walk away feeling so happy, and like it's gonna be okay. The world isn't so bad after all.
Exactly. And it isn't so bad. It's just, of course, the news highlights all the negative, all the scandal. I was at the grocery store, I was looking at the checkout line, I'm like, wow, every magazine cover, it's about these celebrities being like unhappy or on drug or, you know, just negative, 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 negative. They don't want to write about anything happy. And you know, believe me, like after working at Serafina for so many years, I've seen many celebrities, and just through my personal interactions, I've met several celebrities, and they're human beings, and a lot of them are actually happy. so,
Yeah,
so
that's true.
the press
I
wants to go for the negative.
That's right. I have a lot of friends in the industry because I interview so many actors and writers, directors, producers, and they're so many of them are happy. We just hear about the ones that aren't, and we hear about all the gossip and all that, and so yeah, I agree with you. Well,
So
it sounds like you have been very busy. I mean, congratulations on this book. I'm really excited to be able to get that out. Get the interest out to my readers. And so this book is available. It's available in print. Is it also available digitally as well?
yes, so the ebook is on Amazon, I believe Apple Books, different platforms.
Yeah.
So I'm with Post Hill Press, and they're just a great publishing house. They're wonderful. They're fabulous. And so, but I was surprised. I didn't know it's available at Target even. And
Okay.
so online, some people prefer to shop online. So, you know, online it's at Target, Barnes and Noble, Bookshop, Books A Million. Of course, Amazon seems to be the most popular shopping destination for people. So, and hopefully we'll have the audio book out in a few months. We're still
That's good.
yeah, apparently about 20% of book sales are in the audio sector. So a lot of people like to just listen instead of read. So we're working on that.
Yeah. My parents are just coming in. So that's always the fun thing. That's what I love about doing these interviews. Sometimes is my daughter will show up, my dog will show up, and it's okay. I would actually, you know what? The people that come and watch the interviews love seeing that because they're like, oh, you're a real person and you have a real life. It's like, yeah, and
it's true. It's like the more the merrier. Like
oh yeah, totally. Oh yeah. Always think that's fun. I have people all the time who'll say, oh, I'm sorry, my kid just came. That's okay. Like, don't worry about it. It's real life, and that's what I love. I love that. So so I'm gonna ask you a completely unrelated question because I noticed I noticed these pictures behind you. Is there any significance to these pictures behind you?
you know, I'm in my dining area, which is adjacent to the kitchen. So it's a food theme. And I have to give my mother credit because she's an interior designer and she chose them. So I don't know much about them. I just showed up one day after a trip to New York and said, thanks. Thank you.
I just thought I'd ask because I've been looking at them and I think they're really cool. So yes, if your mother picked all that out and that's great because it looks really classy.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, and there's a few more that go down the wall. So
right.
I don't know if I can like so yeah, then you have a more green tone and
right. No, that's great. So
to keep the food.
So in addition to writing then, what, of course, I mean, I know, you're a traveler, all these things, but what other kinds of things do you do in your free time when you have free time?
Well, you know, I'm so blessed to be in Southern California where the weather's nice most of the year. And so I jog lightly. I'm not a huge runner, but just to get out, fresh air is great. And I also love stand-up paddleboard. So usually in Marina Del Rey when I'm doing it locally, or if I'm on a trip, I find a way to work it in.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a new discovery. I'm tall. I'm almost 5'11", so I was worried, am I going to have the balance? And of course, you know, my sister has 4 beautiful kids, and they're a family of surfers. That's something that I haven't ventured into, because that I'm a little too tall for. But I can do the stand-up paddleboard, so that's fun. I like to do physical activities like that. And of course, when it's not coronavirus, I love going to the theater. I love music and concerts. It's just great, especially with performances, seeing Broadway plays. Again, being that I'm in New York so often, there's so many options. Apparently they're not coming back, I don't think, till January 2021, somebody said, which is a shame, but I love theater. It's great. And I do enjoy music in different venues, like a stadium concert with U2 or whatever band is great, but then also here in LA we have the Hollywood Bowl, so there's some nice classical performances outside, and you could bring a picnic blanket. And those are some of the, oh, and of course sports. When sports are on, I'm a huge football fan. You're in Washington. Are you a 12? Are you a Seahawk?
I'm not huge into sports. My mom used to really, I mean, she used to really pay attention. She loved football, and she can get excited when the Seahawks are doing well. She really can cheer. It's funny. She will sometimes all of a sudden get really into the game. She's not watched them a lot in more recent years, but when she does, she can get into them, and she can get our dog going. Our dog just gets all excited and starts running around because my mom is just cheering them on and yelling. So it's my niece, my 2 nieces, as a matter of fact, they usually had season tickets the past few years where they would go to all the Seahawks games.
That's really fun. Yeah. So, I mean, I love football and basketball, and we'll see. I don't know with coronavirus how it's all going to play out these next few seasons, but you know, it's fun. I just like people getting together and cheering and being happy. So, I mean, it helps when your team wins, of course. So sporting events are fun too.
Yeah, right.
I try to do some of that during regular times.
Yeah, right. Well, that sounds like, yeah, you've got a lot of things that are going on, and I have just loved learning about you. I mean, you are just a fascinating person, and I'm so pleased that this book's been published, and that there's potentially more in the works, and so it's just been great chatting with you. And when I do publish this, I will have the video. I will put it up with all your social media links and all that, so people can follow you, and they can order the copy of the book. And so I'll make sure that all that's in place for you. So.
Thank you so much. You're so kind. I appreciate it. And you know, I love your premise too. You mix spirituality into what you're doing, and I think that's really important, especially during rough times like we're going through now. So I appreciate everything you're doing.
Well, thanks. I'm glad to do it, and I'm sure glad we got connected, and I will look forward to getting this up soon so people can see it. And so thank you for your time. It's been great. I've enjoyed it so much.
Thank you, Ruth. I've enjoyed it too, and thank you so much.
All right. Well, have a good rest of your week. I guess this is the beginning of a week. Sometimes I will tell you, with coronavirus, I sometimes, for my days, all seem to run together. I have to think about what day of the week is it, so I just want you to have a really great week, and I'm wishing you all the success with this book, and maybe somebody will pick it up for a movie. That would be super exciting. Well, I'll put a little plug in for you. I like to do that. Not that they always listen to me, but I like to. And so I will look forward to doing that. And I'm wishing you all the success in the world.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Well, Caroline, you have a great day, and I'm sure I will be in touch.
Great, thank you. Bye.
All right. Bye bye.